Sometimes the tapping takes you into the stress more. A lot of times it's really great at desensitizing, just dropping intensity levels. Sometimes it's like, and this happens with EMDR a lot, but it's rare that it happens with EMDR with tapping, but sometimes it's like the brain wants to process so much that it's like processing now, and it's like, go more. And it's like, whoa, we need to pace this. And so it takes a little bit of tricks to figure out how to get soothing, how to get processing without everybody trying to run to the front at the same time for healing.
No, I
We need a
understand
single
that.
file line. It's
A
bilateral
ball.
stimulation, but it's frequently done in therapy sessions where you move your eyes, so sometimes a ball, you can find that stuff online. I don't recommend the visual one because it really stops you. I like it more if people can find an EMDR music and just go about their day. Just stay busy. Let the back of the brain get support, let the front of the brain be free and engaged in the tasks like video games. That's a great connection, is to wear some EMDR music while you're playing video games, because your prefrontal cortex is engaged and your back is the survival system is getting support. And so you can do a ton of healing work in that spot. Being still and feeling their feelings is bad news. It comes a time when when, especially what she just said is basically she's right here. She's on the cliff. And we want to respect that balance. And so this is not time to play around. We're not playing. We're not taking risks. We're not pushing into stuff. When we get over here, and actually we're downhill a little bit, now her brain might naturally say, gosh, I'm so tired. What if we just sit down for 3 minutes and just do nothing? I need this music off. And then right there, we're going to use a couple of interventions, because that's going to be weird for her, because she's had months now, or maybe years, of busy neurological setting, right? And then her brain's probably going to get this, ooh, we got to get out of here. Where's that TV? And it's going to turn it back on. And we just went a little deeper there. And then while that's cooking again, everything's back to normal, her brain's going to keep walking down the hill. There's going to be a time here where she's like, oh gosh, this despair is always right here. And then I walk away from it, and then I come back. It's always right here. And what are you doing here? And she'll watch herself engage the despair and be like, what's up? And she's using her interventions because she's got a little bit more confidence in whatever intervention she's using. And so now she's starting to learn how to engage in that emotion. And so now, and then if she's successful with it, which she will be eventually, but maybe not the first round, maybe the first round, she's gonna be like, okay, change my mind, don't want to talk to you, go back to music, right? There, what she's going to get is her brain's going to say like, okay, but we survived, but did you die? No, because she's processing now. She's got her little processing things that work. And then it's going to say, well, and it actually helped us because we got this done and this done. Why don't you go back and go talk to despair? And she might say, no, but then she might say, and then she might have another conversation, and she might have another conversation. And then all of a sudden, despair is one of her new friends. And she notices every time she hangs out with despair, these awesome things happen, because despair is actually the energy of new beginnings, and it turns into hope and courage pretty quickly when you can get it processed, but it's hard to process because it's very painful to the nervous system. And so then she knows, okay, I need some hope and courage and new beginnings. I bet there's some despair here, and I'd rather hang out with despair than fear. Fear also does the same thing. And so now we're making friends over here. And then despair might say, well, you should probably go talk to fear. And so then maybe she's going to take the risk of talking to fear. And actually, that's kind of going okay. And actually, I'm getting more brave and I'm getting more courageous, because that's what happens with fear processing. And so we want to wait for the nervous system to take the lead on that, because it's weighing all of the balance, and it knows where it's at. It knows if it's on the cliff. It knows if it's back here. It knows if it can take the risk or not. And so we're giving it enough support to get enough work done to have more capacity to take more risk. The fact that she's out here is pretty serious. So no silence. I'm not recommending any silence or stillness. And stay away from your emotions, as a matter of fact, while we're at it. If you're in a place where you're interested in sitting with your emotions, that's a great indicator that that's the thing to do. And if you're like, I've gone on times where I'm like, I want to see how regulated I can get my nervous system. What if and I'm a busy, so I keep doing this, but I'm like, what if I just be still for 5 minutes, you know? And I go do that. I survive. And then I'm like doing repetitions because now I'm building my do nothing program and it's fun. And now I'm noticing my inner world's quieter. It's like, that's weird. I don't know if I like that. Right. And so then get used to that. So it's kind of, it's an evolving process. We're not talking about healthy brains. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about brains that are seriously struggling. And so we don't want to do stuff that is wonderful for healthy brains because you don't got one right now. We want to do stuff that's great for unhealthy, traumatized, anxious, scattered, protective brains that are protecting everything, right? And so, and that's anybody that wants to take those blankets off of you, I have middle fingers for them. And I want you to as well. You get to protect yourself. You got here because you weren't protected. You're going to protect yourself now. And if that means you're even going to protect yourself from your healing team inside, you're going to do that too. And your emotions are your healing team. And I want you to have a great relationship with them. And I understand you don't now. And so let's not pretend that you do. So you keep your comfy blanket and you suck your thumb if you want to, or you hide in your closet, or you rock and you do whatever you want to that's getting you by. And can you add in a healing, a processing intervention? Or if you're tapping, you have to be walking at the same time, and maybe you're only using your collarbone points, or maybe you're going to do some breath work. I don't teach breath work because I'm not trained in it. And if honestly, in my healing journey, if somebody had told me to breathe one more time, I was going to poke their eyes out. So I do like breathing intervention. Now, my favorite intervention for trauma processing is collarbone breathing. And so it's a breath work with tapping, and we're tapping on this fight or flight point, which is probably, Lynn, why you like this spot. This is a good fear spot. See how many times a day you can tap on these points alternately. You know, just because if you do one side, you're going to wear it. You're going to, especially if that's your only point. But you might experiment with a couple of other points. Some people really love this one. Because I like a lot of movement, I like them all. I want to tap everywhere. And I want to do it with two hands if I'm really anxious. That is going to happen. Like your nervous system is really full, and you're going to have bursts of, and that's a very regulating strategy. So it's part of your system healing and regulating itself. If that's all that it gets, it doesn't get family support, it doesn't have an intervention support, you don't have medication support, you don't have, then you're going to be a crier because you got a lot of crying to do. So what I would encourage you, if you can cry at home more, when you start crying, go with it. Tap your little point over here. Client that would always cry at church every single time, and it was one of the first things we worked on, and it stopped immediately. We just did some tapping on it. And so, and we kind of want to know what the low hanging fruit is, but I think for you, hers was a very specific thing. I think yours is a little bit more of overwhelm. And I mean, gosh, you're up on stage, you're being seen, there's beautiful music, right? There's response. I mean, and you're probably, your nervous system is in there like, it's or this book, you know, and like, it's like, it has its own agenda, you know, and you're like, but we're trying to read. I definitely wouldn't fight it, but I do understand the inconvenience of, you don't get to plan, you don't get to, we need a redundant number of ways to process emotions. Just like humans thrive on redundancy, redundant relationships, redundant ways of breathing. You know, we have 2 ways of getting air into our system in case one is not available. And so same thing with processing. If we don't have them, our system's just we're gonna cry, or we're gonna do the thing, you know, I don't know, it's different for everybody, but you'll use that one thing a lot. And so, yeah. Your survival strategy is to stay in your head, which is a common anxiety thing, and depression and traumatic stress. It's like the only part of our system we can actually consciously control. Right. And so it's like that gives us some comfort. So we go up there and then we get hyper up here. And then that's where we ruminate and we get stuck and worry and all the things, because that's so while this is complicated and this part of your brain does not know how to grieve this, there are so many other parts of you, like your body, that knows exactly how to grieve it. Right? There's so many parts of us that already know. And it's like, if we would spend some time with them, we would find our way out, because we're actually using them as our guide instead of our thinking center as our guide. And I know I'm just using words, but I want to put that in a pin for you, so that as you start to have more experiences letting your body guide you and trusting your body to guide you, you're going to have an easier time doing a very natural animal tribal thing of doing. But our thinking center is not an animal tribal thing. It doesn't know these things. And so so it's like having your board of directors. And it's like, if you need to talk budget, you actually talk to your financial advisor. If you want to talk people connections, then you talk to your people connection advisors. If you want to talk employee management, you talk to your employer. You know, when we're talking about grief, we want to talk to our grief specialists, which are the body. We actually don't want to talk to the mind, because it doesn't really know. Does that make sense? And so when we're going into these board meetings and we're going and we're talking to the mind, and we're like, hey, tell me what we're going to do. And the body's like, and we're like, you know, tell me what are we going to do? And we're thinking. We're so engaged. We're locked in. This is a neurological pattern. This is not a choice. This is not, and this is me talking about this is not going to break this for you. It's just going to bring it into your awareness. The deep breathing, slow on the exhale, is actually what could break this connection, for this neurological connection. But there's a lock-in with the mind here, and so you're not talking to the right experts inside. And what inner world transformation it really is about, and what integration and healing is about, is bringing all the parts together, working and practicing with different parts of you, so that you know which one to use at which time, and you're not locked into any one. And having that flexibility and flow, and using all of your team in integration. It's kind of like being, it's right now, we, when we have these issues, are being a dysfunctional director. And that's because the wiring is dysfunctionally wired. And because we got this wiring from our parents, from society, from practice, like, there's lots of reasons we're wired like this, but it takes a lot of processing to become a masterful board leader. Not just experience, because that can be traumatizing, or it just can, you have a lot of experience that you never process, so you don't get the nuggets from it. So you actually aren't masterful. So you could be, if you could process it. So it's like here, you know, last week I was like, do you want to fix this, or do you want your brain to fix this? Right? And so it's like, if we want the brain to fix this, we got to do the things where we support the brain to fix it. Right? And so it's just talking to the different parts of us. And it's hard, because with an anxiety disorder, we're like choking out our mind. Like, we're like so scared, and it's the only relationship we have in our inner world, in our outer world, that we're like, and so anybody else touching us is just going to activate, like, if our body is starting to stuff, it's just going to activate our survival system. We're like, we're trying to survive here, don't talk to me. Right? And so these other parts of us are trying to talk, they are trying to, but we're too like this is so why it's so important to do the breathing. The slow exhale is the important part. That's the one that signals we're not actually being chased by a tiger. And so it's important to do that, so we can shift out of that survival mode. And then what the top part of the brain is going to be like, oh, we need to loosen up right here. You know, and then it's going to say, hey, and then some of the parts are going to be like, oh, I really wish we could talk to the body. Hey, body, tell us some things. The body's going to tell some things. As long as we're in that regulated state, everybody's talking. Whether we have the ability to say, hey, body, come up to the floor, it's your turn to talk, go ahead or not. We don't, like, we're going to get to that skill level. But right now, the mind body system all want to talk to each other. So all we're going to do is make sure the survival system ungrips the mind a little bit, and all the other information will flow, even if it's just a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. It's changing. Sometimes the more safe we feel, the wilder our symptoms become. You know, it's like things just start to unravel with safety. It's like we're safe enough to loosen up a little bit. We're safe enough not to grip it so hard. We're safe enough to, and it's like sometimes we're like, what's wrong with me? I'm getting worse. And it's not, it's just, it's actually unpacking. So, but those are some wild times. So you want a lot of support. I think you need that right now. And I think you should do what you need to do and what you want to do. I think that's going to be really important for you. I could sit here and say, I think you really need an intervention. I want you to do an intervention. But if you don't feel safe enough to, I've offered a couple of them already, and you're like very protective and guarded. And so that needs to be there now. And so I want to honor that. And I want, if you want to start with the smile and with the eyes softening, you go ahead. And if that makes you feel safe, and if you're noticing shifts in your body, you are winning. Because our brain is actually designed to require this type of specific support. The survival system really needs to hear safety signals from the body. And so actually softening your eyes and smiling is a safety signal. That would work if it works. We'd have to trial it with something, right? And we'd need to know, does it work when I'm in a panic attack? Does it work when I'm worrying? Does it work? Like, if and how quickly does it take 2 days? Does it take 3 hours? Does it take 30 minutes? Does it take 30 seconds? We want to know that stuff so that we can get to know your system. It's the design of the body. It's why we pick up babies and we rock them, because we're actually talking to their survival systems. We're getting their survival system to relax so that their nervous system can process the mind, body, spirit data, the oxygen moving. Whoa, what's this oxygen for the first time? You know, we're letting them suck. Sucking is very soothing to the nervous system. We're actually talking to the survival system. You're safe because you're sucking. The survival system wants to know, we're not sucking, we must not be safe. It's how it's navigating. We're actually rocking our baby. The survival system never matures, it never grows up. You literally could take you right now and rock you, and it would actually help your mind body system integrate all of your knowledge, your body knowledge, your spirit knowledge, your cognitive, your conscious, subconscious knowledge, just by taking you and rocking you. I think it's not important to stop those things. Like, you really don't want to have a spiral, but I would suggest to you, your brain thinks that spiraling is the best option right now. And I wouldn't argue with it if I were you. However, you're like, I need you to stop because we need to go get a job. And I know, but if you could let the spiral finish and support it with an intervention, maybe while you're spiraling, you're focusing on that deep exhale, or maybe some tapping here while you're spiraling. You're not fighting with the spiral. And then your brain is in that processing state. And then your brain says, why are we spiraling? This is a mess. Yeah, I'm glad you noticed. Finally, it's in a state where it could see it. It could process it. And now it says, this is a problem. I know. And it says, and then it gets immediately to work to fix the spiral. The next time, and if you can keep your system in that regulated state, the next time you come up to the spiral, let the spiral happen. You're probably going to notice the spiral is different this time because your brain already went in and made corrections. But it didn't stop it. You might need to meet this spiral 10 times, especially without specific and targeted strategies. You might need to support your brain 10 times with this same spiral, regulating it and giving it time to fix it. And then what's going to happen is that spiral is going to disappear, and you're going to not even have to deal with it. Or you can spend a lifetime fighting with your brain. Don't do this. And we're going to try to avoid the spiral. Like, I'm suggesting that we don't struggle. Could we struggle against the brain less? Could we struggle against the panic attack less? Could we let the panic attack finish? Could we, and that's a hard one. And if you're in a panic attack, could you not struggle with it for a little bit? I think you've already started this, Talia, where you're breathing with it. When it gets fuzzy, you're hitting it right, like you're noticing you're going into it, and you're regulating. This will eventually resolve it. I think it's probably something deeper, that if you could get ahead of it, that there's a root issue causing it, then it's faster to stop those things. But without strategies, and you just have an intervention, if you could just let your brain do exactly what it's doing and add in this specific brain support, rock your baby while it's screaming. We don't say, stop screaming. I don't want you to scream right now. We do want the screaming to stop. We do, we really do. But we actually just meet it with this, and we just relax our body more. And then eventually the mind body system of the baby gets it, and the screaming stops. Right. And then the baby's learning to scream less in different places, or to use their words differently. But a very simple intervention that I don't include in the free program is just holding your forehead. I think I did this in a video recently. I want to rename this. There's actually main neurovasculars here, and we're actually pulling the blood flow and electricity back to the front of the brain, because our hands are electromagnetic and they will pull that. So we're like kind of pulling back on the prefrontal cortex. In survival states, the brain starts taking away energy and blood flow from the prefrontal cortex. And so our thinking center actually isn't operating on full steam. It can't do its best work. And so we're shifting it, and we're pulling that energy away back from the survival system, because it tends to be an energy hog, because we're dying and it needs to keep us alive. So we're sucking up all the energy because we're going to live. We will live. But holding this for 2 minutes is really helpful. I've seen this be miraculous with a few number of people. And so I'm sharing this with you because if it's miraculous for you, awesome. I don't find it miraculous for me. I find it helpful. And so just holding, you can add breath work in here. You can circle your eyes around a couple times in both directions. That got me that side, that exhale. So this is, I would rename this, hold on to your nervous system. Like, give me that. Come back. And so you can hold that. I like to have clients do something like that, like right before they go to bed. I hope to see you guys all around, and by next week we'll be here if you have more questions, and especially I'd love to see if you use the interventions, how that's going, and you'll have probably more questions from that point. I would love to hear all about it. So, all right, take care, everybody.